The Great Lakes are home to the largest single source of surface freshwater of any place on the planet. And because of this, over the last 200 years, cities have sprung up all around it to take advantage of this unique geographic resource, binding them together in an economic region known as the Great Lakes Megaregion. So why did this megaregion become such a manufacturing powerhouse for the United States? And how has it maintained its importance even into 2024? The Great Lakes states have taken a beating in recent decades, but rumors of its demise have been greatly exaggerated. And right now, I'm going to make a compelling argument for why this megaregion, perhaps even more so than the Northeast Corridor, truly is the most important region the United States has ever had. And of course, for you Canadians, we're going to talk all about whether Toronto should or should not be included. Speaking of Canada, tomorrow I'm talking all about Quebec with my friend and astronomy content creator, Trevor Churleen, perhaps better known as Plateau Astro. Come back tomorrow to check out that episode, or if you're a subscriber on Patreon, you can listen to it right now. The Great Lakes Megaregion, located primarily in the United States, encompasses a significant area characterized by its unique physical geography, major urban centers, and substantial population. This region, which includes parts of 10 U.S. states, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and bits of Missouri, Iowa, and Kentucky, centers around much of the Great Lakes themselves: Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, Lake Erie, and Lake Ontario. These freshwater lakes, the largest group of freshwater lakes by total area in the world, play a crucial role in the region's geography, economy, and environment. The physical geography of the Great Lakes Megaregion is dominated by the lakes and their extensive shorelines, which stretch for thousands of miles. This region includes a variety of landscapes, from the rugged and forested areas of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and northern Wisconsin to the fertile plains of Ohio and Indiana. The region's climate is predominantly humid continental, characterized by cold winters with significant snowfall and warm summers. The presence of the Great Lakes significantly influences local weather patterns, sometimes moderating temperatures, but also contributing to increased precipitation and even the dreaded lake snow effect that can hit cities such as Buffalo, New York. But perhaps more so than any other megaregion, the Great Lakes is home to a very dense network of cities and metropolitan areas, many of which are crucial economic and cultural hubs. Chicago, Illinois, the largest city in the region, serves as a major center for finance, commerce, and transportation. In fact, Chicago, to this day, remains the busiest rail hub in the country, a record it has held for 150 years. Detroit in Michigan, Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati in Ohio, Milwaukee in Wisconsin, Indianapolis in Indiana, Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania, Buffalo in New York, and St. Louis in Missouri make up the vast array of major cities within the region, each contributing to its economic diversity and cultural richness. The population of the Great Lakes Megaregion is substantial, with estimates suggesting that it is home to about 54 million people. This makes it one of the most populous and economically significant regions in the United States. The population is highly urbanized, with a large proportion of residents living in the aforementioned cities and their metropolitan areas. This concentration of population has led to the development of extensive infrastructure networks, including transportation systems, educational institutions, and healthcare facilities. Because this region's economy is diverse and robust, major industries such as the automobile industry continue to make this region one of the strongest manufacturing bases in the country. As of 2024, nearly 5 million people in this region were employed in the manufacturing industry by nearly 70,000 companies. This blows any other region in the United States away as far as manufacturing goes. Additionally, the Great Lakes themselves are vital for transportation and shipping, connecting the region to international markets via the St. Lawrence Seaway. This economic diversity helps to buffer the region against economic downturns and supports a high standard of living for many of its residents. Though admittedly during the 1980s through the early 2000s, the region suffered many economic issues. But perhaps more than anything else, the Great Lakes Megaregion is an area of considerable environmental importance for both the country and the world. The Great Lakes hold about 84% of North America's surface freshwater, making them a critical resource for drinking water, agriculture, and industry. The efforts to preserve and protect these freshwater resources are constant, involving both governmental and non-governmental organizations. And while the Great Lakes water seems infinite, threats such as pollution, invasive species, and climate change pose existential danger to them. Recall that Central Asia also once had their own Great Lake in the Aral Sea, but they slowly drained it over the last few decades to the point where it's a shadow of its former self. The same could occur with the Great Lakes if they weren't protected. It's not a stretch to call the Great Lakes Megaregion the most important region of the United States. Of course, others can also make that claim. Regardless, the region's unique economic and population geography certainly makes it stand out, and this has been true throughout its history within the country. Up to this point, we've been talking about the modern iteration of the Great Lakes Megaregion. But even prior to European colonization, the entire region was home to a vast network of indigenous peoples. The Great Lakes region was originally inhabited by a variety of Native American tribes, including the Anishinaabe, the Huron-Wendat, the Iroquois, and the Miami. These tribes used the Great Lakes extensively, relying on them for fishing, hunting, agriculture, and trade. But they also served as crucial transportation and trade routes, linking these indigenous communities and facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures. European exploration and colonization of the Great Lakes region began in the early 1600s, spearheaded by French explorers such as Samuel de Champlain, who reached the area in 1608. The French, not big into the idea of luring settlers into regions they had little control of, were primarily interested in the lucrative fur trade, and as such, established a network of trading posts instead. Notable explorers like Etienne Brulé and Jean Nicolet ventured into the interior, forging alliances with indigenous tribes and mapping the vast lakes and waterways. The French influence in the region lasted until the mid-1700s, when the British emerged as the dominant colonial power following the French and Indian War. The Treaty of Paris in 1763 ceded control of the Great Lakes region to the British, who continued to engage in the fur trade and expand their territorial claims. However, British control was short-lived, as the American Revolutionary War and subsequent Treaty of Paris in 1783 transferred the region to the newly independent United States, which had a vastly different idea of what it wanted to do with the land. The early 1800s saw rapid expansion and development in the Great Lakes region as American settlers moved westward. The construction of the Erie Canal, completed in 1825, was a pivotal moment in the region's history. This engineering marvel for its time connected the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean via the Hudson River and dramatically reduced transportation costs and stimulated economic growth. The canal facilitated the movement of people and goods, spurring the growth of cities such as Buffalo, Cleveland, Detroit, and even Chicago. But it would be the Industrial Revolution that would really propel the Great Lakes region to prominence. The discovery of rich natural resources, including iron ore and coal, fueled the growth of heavy industries such as steel production, manufacturing, and automotive assembly. Cities like Detroit became synonymous with the automobile industry, while Chicago emerged as a major transportation and commercial hub of the country due to its strategic westward location and extensive railway network. And it was this exact transportation and manufacturing base that was built in the 1800s that would prove to be so incredibly vital for the United States in the first half of the 1900s as the country fought in both world wars. During this time, the Great Lakes cities provided essential materials and manufactured goods for the war effort. And post-war, this economic prosperity led to the development of robust infrastructure, educational institutions, and cultural amenities, attracting more people to move to the region. Unfortunately, the latter half of the 1900s brought challenges. The decline of traditional manufacturing industries, economic recessions, and environmental degradation posed significant threats to the region's prosperity, and the lure of warmer weather in southern and southwest states drew population away from the region, slowing its growth overall, though it's never actually lost population. Today, the region maintains as one of the most important in the country, and there are several reasons for this. The Great Lakes Megaregion has become a bit of a punching bag in terms of national conversations around economics and population growth. But contrary to popular belief, this region is extremely important to the country at large, and its collective influence doesn't appear to be fading anytime soon. Economically, the Great Lakes Megaregion is a powerhouse. Being home to over 16% of the total US population, or 54 million people, makes it one of the most populous and densely populated areas in the country. And because of this, the region contributes significantly to the US gross domestic product. All told, the Great Lakes Megaregion has an annual GDP of somewhere between 5 and 6 trillion US dollars. This means that if it were its own country, it would be the third wealthiest country behind the United States and China, but ahead of Japan, Germany, the United Kingdom, France, and many others that are considered to be global economic heavyweights. And again, contrary to popular belief that manufacturing has died in the country, it's manufacturing, particularly in the automobile and steel sectors, that continues to be the backbone of this region's economy. But while the economy is important, it's the Great Lakes themselves which hold the future of the region. All told, the Great Lakes contain about 21% of all surface freshwater on the planet and about 84% of North America's. In an age of climate change, wildfires, mega droughts, and other calamitous events, the Great Lakes offers something of a lifeline to both the United States and Canada should other regions begin drying up. Humans, after all, can't live long without fresh water. And with all this fresh water comes a region that's very unique in its biodiversity and natural beauty. The lakes and their surrounding ecosystems are home to a wide variety of plant and animal species, such as the gray wolf, Canada lynx, and of course, American bald eagle. In fact, the Great Lakes themselves serve as a vital stopping point for millions of migratory birds as they travel north or south. Today, the Great Lakes region is home to over 54 million people. This would be led by the Chicago metro region with 9.6 million people, followed by Detroit with 4.3 million, St. Louis with 2.8 million, Pittsburgh with 2.5 million, Cincinnati with 2.3 million, Cleveland with 2.2 million, Columbus and Indianapolis with 2.1 million each, Milwaukee with 1.5 million, and Buffalo with 1.1 million people. But these are just the major cities. Throughout the region are hundreds of other smaller, but still significant cities, such as Grand Rapids and Lansing in Michigan, Green Bay and Madison in Wisconsin, Fort Wayne in Indiana, Rochester in New York, and Dayton, Akron, and Toledo in Ohio, amongst many others. But one city that I haven't mentioned yet, but could make the case for being a strong addition to the megaregion, is Toronto, Ontario. So the question then becomes, is it truly part of the megaregion, or is the international border too big a hurdle to include them? The question of whether Toronto, Ontario should be included as part of the Great Lakes megaregion is a bit puzzling. And given the city's significant economic, cultural, and geographic ties to the Great Lakes themselves, it seems silly to exclude them altogether. But Toronto is situated in Canada, and this means it has an international border, which does prevent closer economic and even cultural ties that, say, Chicago does to Detroit. But let's break it down. Toronto, located on the northwestern shore of Lake Ontario, is the largest city in Canada and serves as a major economic and cultural hub for the country. The city's economy is very diverse, encompassing finance, technology, manufacturing, and a thriving creative sector. The Toronto Stock Exchange is one of the largest in the world, making the city a critical financial center for Canada. In many ways, Toronto is the closest parallel to New York City that Canada has. And this means that the economic interconnections between Toronto and US cities like Chicago, Detroit, and Cleveland are substantial, with significant cross-border trade, investment, and collaboration. And in terms of transportation, Toronto is also a vital link in the Great Lakes megaregion. Pearson International Airport is one of the busiest in North America, serving as a major gateway for international and domestic travel. But it's Toronto's port facilities on Lake Ontario that truly enable the movement of goods and commodities throughout the Great Lakes and beyond. The city is an integral stop along the St. Lawrence corridor, facilitating goods moving from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to Chicago. But perhaps what binds Toronto most of all is its shared environment. Being a Great Lakes city, Toronto shares many of the same challenges and opportunities as the US cities in this region. The protection and sustainable management of Lake Ontario specifically are critical issues that necessitate cooperation between Canadian and American authorities. The Great Lakes Compact is an international agreement between the US states of Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, and the Canadian provinces of Ontario and Quebec that attempts to maintain and protect the largest single source of fresh water in the world. For all these reasons, including Toronto in the Great Lakes megaregion would recognize the city's integral role in the economic, cultural, and environmental landscape of the area. But an international border is not an easy barrier to ignore. And because of that border, Toronto is not connected in the same way that it is to Montreal or that Chicago is to Detroit. So should it be included? The answer is probably, but with perhaps a little asterisk to denote its cross-border challenges. The Great Lakes is perhaps the most underrated of all the megaregions. But don't let its somewhat recent economic issues fool you. This area has a lot going for it, and if you include Toronto, it could be the most economically dominant region in both the United States and Canada. By the way, if you're from any of these places, be sure to check out my map store to find some truly amazing maps that would look great on your walls. There's so much more I could say about the Great Lakes megaregion, but I'm all out of time. Want more geography? Here's another video. And of course, be sure to check out my other podcast, Geography is Everything. Thanks for watching.